What? You thought I was done? You really thought I was done? I mean, in many ways, I am. Because what is abundantly clear, and what has been abundantly clear, is doing stuff like this really doesn't do any good. And trust me, nobody has to tell me that doing stuff like this does any good. It clearly doesn't, because it will literally never change anything ever, in all likelihood. And even though I have said many times that I hate being a broken record, there are always going to be exceptions. And then there are going to be exceptions to the exceptions. And I could go on and on and on about that. But one thing that I have also stated a lot previously in the past is that at the end of the day, at the end of the day, bullshit needs to be called out as bullshit. If it's bullshit, it needs to be called out. And this, I don't think I'm ever really going to understand. And this is brutal honesty. I don't think I'm ever going to really fully understand why nobody can seem to figure this out. Why it's so goddamn hard to use fucking logic to figure this out. But that's fine. That's fine. It's fine. Nobody else wants to point this bullshit out. Nobody. Not one single person. Not one. I've waited, and I've pushed it, and I've continued to push it. And at this point, it's abundantly fucking clear. And it's fucking bullshit, so it needs to be called out. Nobody else wants to do it. Okay. I will. Hello. My name is Megachamp, and the following video may contain strong language and controversial opinions. If you don't like strong language and controversial opinions and a truth that you may not want to hear, leave now. Cry me a river. But do I really care anymore? Not really. Not really. Have I ever cared? Not really. Not really. Because bullshit needs to be called out as bullshit. If you don't like what I'm about to say, which you most likely won't, I would suggest you stop watching the video now and literally go do something more productive. Instead of becoming a mental fucking 5-year-old about my opinion on this and this quote unquote controversial opinion and a truth that needs to be stated that most people don't want to hear. And then when you hear the truth that you don't want to hear, you end up becoming a mental fucking 5-year-old. So if that's what if that is what is going to happen, then you need to stop watching and go do something more productive. Because nobody else wants to point this shit out. So I will. You want to consider this a rant? You want to consider this a tangent? You want to consider this a shoot? Yeah. I guess it is. I guess it is. Because guess what? We're talking about this shit again. Because I just know everyone loves when I talk about fucking Pokemon. Because this fucking image literally represents the fucking fan base at this point. Brain dead. Nothing in their fucking skulls. No logical reasoning. Although it's not really specifically on the Pokemon fan base, believe it or not. Although we all know by now that if I ever have the opportunity, I can and always will. Just like if I ever have the opportunity with Bandai Namco, I mean Scamco, I'm going to fucking bury them. Because it's fun, and it's the fucking truth that nobody wants to hear. If I'm giving the opportunity, I'm gonna do it. But it's actually not about the Pokemon fan base, believe it or not. I know, don't have a fucking heart attack on me. It's actually more specifically about the Pokemon Company International and GameFreak. If you don't know who these two companies are, which you should by now, they are the companies in charge of the Pokemon game franchise. Although really it's the Pokemon franchise in general. Although more so Game Freak and the video game realm as opposed to the Pokemon Company International. The Pokemon Company International is in charge of everything Pokemon in general, whereas Game Freak is the developer behind the Pokemon games, and they are also developing other games that aren't Pokemon, which is a whole different topic in its own right, and I will not be talking about that in this specific regard. We are going to specifically talk about and call out the Pokemon Company International and Game Freak. What are we calling them out on? Well, I can't figure it out. I can't use the thing that's in my fucking brain and logical reasoning to figure out what it is we're talking about here. Oh, that's right. The fact that they have officially confirmed that they're fucking contradictory hypocrites. If you haven't left by now, you should. They have officially confirmed, finally, that they are now contradictory hypocrites. How are they contradictory hypocrites, Mega? Example number 1. This is a list of the Pokemon Presents, which it was rebranded as Pokemon Presents when it was originally called Pokemon Directs. The first Pokemon Presents was on June 17th, 2020. However, 2020 is the exception year because that's when the pandemic happened and everyone was enclosed inside their homes. So you have to ignore these first two. So ignore the first two, and this one doesn't even count because it's a specific Pokemon Presents on Pokemon Unite. So it practically doesn't even count. So you have to ignore the first two. So ever since 2020, specifically since 2021, the Pokemon Company International, and Game Freak have held 2 Pokemon Presents a year, every year since 2021. One in February and one in August. Here are the 2 that happened in 2021. Here are the 2 that happened in 2022. And here are the 2 that happened in 2023. Oh, but what's this? Only one in February of 2024, which was held on Pokemon Day. What you can count on specifically when it comes to Pokemon Presents is that they will always hold a Pokemon Presents on Pokemon Day, which is normally around the 27th of February. As you can see, in 2024 and in 2023, and hell, even in 2022. And then in 2021, it was on the 26th. So, around the 26th or the 27th of February, you can pretty much expect a Pokemon Presents to coincide with Pokemon Day, which is pretty much the celebration of when Pokemon was created. However, since today is September 1st, 2024, as of the time of the recording of this video, for the first time ever, they did not hold a Pokemon Presents in August of 2024. So why the fuck is that? Why the fuck is that? Well, that's the question, isn't it? It all comes down to the whiny fucking fan base, who are never fucking satisfied and are clearly never going to be satisfied, and their constant whiny fucking baby complaints. And I'm not just specifically talking about Pokemon fans, because I did a shoot on this in February of in November, of 2022, I believe it was. The year that Scarlet and Violet came out. I can look it up right now because we're going to be coming back to this. It was in November of 2022 when I did a shoot about this. Because nobody wanted to fucking talk about Pokemon and their problems. 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But oh no, it was Scarlet and Violet that made everyone come out of the fucking woodshed and give their little bullshit takes about Scarlet and Violet. And don't get me wrong, they have problems. Of course they have problems. Every fucking game has problems. You know what other game had problems? Sword and Shield. Did all these fucking people come out and talk about the problems for that game? Oh, of course not. Of course not. Why would they? Why would they? Why would they? And did Sun and Moon have problems? Of course they did. Did these same fucking people come out and of their little fucking woodsheds and say shit then? Of course not. Of course not. Do you see the point here? And I don't care what the fucking problems in Scarlet and Violet was, which, let's be fucking honest now, are more than likely fixed now. I can't say that with 100% certainty, okay? I can't. Because I haven't played Scarlet for myself, which is the version that I bought, which you should already know by now. I can't say that with 100% certain. When I start playing the game and I have played it for about 10 hours, I'll let you know. So I can't say for certain because I haven't experienced the game for myself. From what I have seen and from what I have heard, most of which is bullshit, some people have a lot of problems, some people have little problems, and fuck, I've even heard that some people have no problems at all. So it may also depend on the Switch that you play the game on. Unless you want to, be a pirate. That's up to you. I'm not going to say one way or the other. I don't know how it runs if you pirate the game. I would assume it would be worse, but I don't know that for certain. What is certain, or what has what is more than likely certain is, depending on the Switch that you play it, a regular Switch, a Switch Lite, a Switch OLED, whatever fucking Switch you play it on, you're probably gonna get a different experience. Because every Switch is different and has different chips and technology inside of it. Wow, what a fucking concept. Everyone decided to come out of the fucking woodwork and act like this was the worst fucking thing that ever happened to Pokemon. You know, they didn't want to fucking come out during Sword and Shield, now did they? Or Sun and Moon, or X and Y. I could go on forever. Do you see the point now? The only reason they are fucking doing something is, one, they're probably tired of the whiny bullshit, and in many ways I can't blame them. And two, literally everyone, and their fucking mother probably, decided they wanted to fucking give their little fucking takes, quote unquote, on the issues and the problems. Is it a good look? Of course it's not a fucking good look. I never said it was, just like I never said there weren't problems. But why the fuck are they listening now? Why the fuck are they listening now? Here's example number 2. Ever since Pokemon X and Y, also known as Generation 6, the next generation of Pokemon games, the new mainline games, if you want to refer to them as that, have come out 3 years after the previous generation. This started during Pokemon X and Y. You don't believe me? This is why I have all these tabs up. Pokemon X and Y came out in 2013. Spin-offs and remakes do not count. The next generation, worst generation, Pokemon Sun and Moon, came out in 2016. That's 3 years. Let's go further, shall we? This does not count. Also, they ruined Kanto with it being a large-ass Safari Zone. How about no? Pokemon Sword and Shield, November of 2019. Again, 3 years. Starting to see a pattern yet? No? Okay. Let's see. This doesn't count. This doesn't count. Ah, yes. The most recent game. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. 2022. Let's see here. That's Isle of Armor, so 2020. Oh, wow, 3 years. Do you see the pattern now? Ever since Pokemon X and Y on the 3DS, they have released a new generation of Pokemon games every 3 years. Here, let me highlight it for you. X and Y, 2013. Sun and Moon, 2016. Basic math means that's 3 years. Sword and Shield, 2019. Basic math means that's 3 years. Scarlet and Violet, 2022. Basic math means that's 3 years. Example number 2. They have been releasing the next generation of Pokemon games ever since X and Y every 3 years. This is not an opinion. It's a fucking fact. You cannot dispute this. Example number 3. The sales of the games. Oh boy, this is a good one. So, obviously, it's hard to really say definitively on how you can judge sales when we're talking about stuff that, you know, is back in the fucking 90s, the 1990s in this particular case. 1996 for red and green, and 1999, etc., etc., etc. But there is an overall general pattern here, too. And that's the fact that for the most part, with a couple of exceptions, although even with those exceptions, I still wouldn't call this horrible or atrocious. It's better than Concord. Point is, for the most part, most of the sales of the games of Pokemon, even the spin-off games for the most part, well, okay, maybe not so much for the spin-off games, but honestly, the spin-off games don't even matter, and they don't even count. So we're gonna throw that aside. For the most part, the sales of the Pokemon games have been at least 10 million units. Red, green, and blue, that's at least 10 million. It's actually 3 times as much. Gold and silver, 23. Ruby and sapphire, 16. These are mainline, not the third versions, which no longer exist now because of DLC. So you have to throw that out too. I'm talking mainline generational games. In other words, the next new generation of Pokemon games, which more times than not have 2 versions. So you ignore Crystal, you ignore Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you ignore the remakes. They're remakes. You ignore the third versions that no longer exist, like I said. So ignoring the third versions, Ruby and Sapphire, still in the 10 million range. Diamond and Pearl, still in the 10 million range. Black and White, still in the 10 million range. X and Y, oh wow, what a shock, still in the 10 million range. Sun and Moon, worst generation, still in the 10 million range. Regardless of what my opinion on it is, it's still in the 10 million range. And most notably, Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, both in the 10 million range. Specifically, 26 million for Sword and Shield and 25 million for Scarlet and Violet. And, you know, just for shits and giggles, let's try to find Legends Arceus, if I can find it. Or if it's not on here, I don't know, it's right here. Don't know how I missed it. Oh, look, it's still in the 10 million range. And let's go look at that one game that everyone wants to complain about. You know, the one that I did a full thoughts video on. Not Legends Arceus, not that one. The other one. You know, the one where everyone complained about the graphics. Because, why not? BDSP, also known as Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Oh, look, 10 million. Wow. It's almost like a pattern. It's almost like a pattern. Patterns, huh? Patterns. Like how every 3 years they've been putting out a new generation of Pokemon games. Why I'm bringing this up to show you that they have now officially confirmed themselves to be contradictory hypocrites. That would be, again, let's just, since everyone is apparently a goldfish, let's recap here. It's the Pokemon Company International and GameFreak. How this confirms they're contradictory hypocrites is that they have no fucking incentive to listen to the whiny ass fan base. No fucking incentive in any way whatsoever. Period. End of story. So why is it that they've been releasing a new generation of Pokemon games for every 3 years until now? Because remember, they didn't do a August Pokemon Presents. So they've been releasing a new generation of Pokemon games every 3 years. And the sales pretty much state that every release they put out prints money. Why is it that now of all times, of course, they are listening to the whiny fucking fan base when they have no incentive to fucking change? In all brutal honesty, I don't have the answer to that. I don't. Because believe it or not, I don't have the answer to fucking everything. I know it may seem like, or it may appear as if I act like I do, but I don't. Now, I know that there's an elephant in the fucking room here. And before, the mental fucking 5-year-old wants to point it out, the elephant in the room in this situation, and I didn't bring the fake image for it up, so we can go back to this, I guess. The elephant in the room is Switch 2. Or whatever they end up calling Switch 2. Because it's coming. And everything that Nintendo is doing and has done and continues to do suggests that it's coming. When? Who knows anymore? They would have made a hell of a lot more money if they put it out in the holiday of this year, but, I'm not fucking them. I'm not them, clearly. In all likelihood, Switch 2 will probably be put out in the first half of 2025. That is what all the reports, the leaks, quote-unquote, and the insiders, quote-unquote, have said and have suggested. That the Switch 2 will be put out in the first half of 2025. So, that is the elephant in the room in this situation. because whether I like it or not, every single developer within Nintendo and anyone that works with Nintendo, in this specific case, the Pokemon Company International and GameFreak, though it's more specifically GameFreak in this case because they are the ones who develop and put out the Pokemon games. So let's just say GameFreak. Every single developer inside Nintendo that works with Nintendo on their first party games that only release on their platform and on their console, in this case Switch or Switch 2 or whatever Switch 2 ends up being called, all of them, every single last one of them is more than likely working on something for the Switch 2. Whether it's a launch game for the Switch 2 that comes out when the console comes out, or a game that will come out relatively soon after or within the same year that the Switch 2 comes out, or really anything, I guess, that is going to end up coming out with the Switch 2. Every single last one of them is working on something, in all likelihood, that will be either coming out or eventually coming out for the Switch 2. And this does include GameFreak. I'm not going to pretend like the argument doesn't exist, where there's a scenario where Nintendo told GameFreak to work on something for the Switch 2. Of course, then the question becomes, how long have they had the technology that the Switch 2 runs on? In other words, I guess, if you want to word it this way, a Switch 2 dev kit. Nobody knows, and nobody is ever going to know, because Nintendo finally got tired of all the leaks and shut down most of the leakers. Most of them. Not all of them, because you can never shut all of them down, but most of them. We are never going to know the answer to this. And if you think you know the answer to this, you're wrong. We are never going to have the answer to this. So we don't know how long Game Freak has had the Switch 2 technology or a Switch 2 dev kit or whatever to work on the next Pokemon game for it. Some people are speculating that this is a Switch 2 game. Or, at the minimum at least, it will be a dual release. In other words, it will release on both the Switch, the original Switch or Switch 1, and also Switch 2. Now, that's a very distinct possibility, and I'm not going to pretend that it isn't. But nobody can definitively say one way or the other if this is the case or not, because nobody fucking knows, including myself. If you act like you know, you're wrong. So this is the elephant in the room, because there's a scenario where Switch 2 was coming, and is coming, and they wanted all of the developers, including Game Freak, to work on Switch 2 games and make them the best they could possibly be. Obviously, you don't want to put out a shit release for a new console. You just don't want to do that. It's not good. It's not good. So they may want them to work on their games for as long as possible, so they can be as good as possible for their next upcoming console. Because I can tell you right now, and this is not hard to fucking figure out, just saying, Nintendo does not want another Wii U situation. They don't. They don't. The Nintendo wants to act like Wii U and the Wii U generation and the Wii U time didn't exist because it was an abstract failure. Not an opinion, fact. Even I didn't buy a Wii U. Not that that all of a sudden means the Wii U was a failure. It's just simple statistics, facts, and reports. I don't have it up, but this is not something I pulled out of my ass. It's a fact. The Wii U was an abject failure. And Nintendo doesn't want another repeat of that. Because it's the exact reason why third-party developers didn't want to make games for the Switch, because of the abject failure of the Wii U. They regained trust a little during 3DS, but it wasn't enough. They don't want another Wii U. They don't. Because the change from the Wii to the Wii U, when the Nintendo Wii was a success, not great. Not great. They don't want a repeat of that. They're going to do everything they possibly can within their power to make sure that the same thing doesn't happen from Switch to Switch 2. And you can't blame them for that, and I don't. But are you really going to argue? Are you really going to argue that the Switch 2 is the reason? Really? It's not because of the whiny fucking fan base or the fucking constant complaining or everyone coming out of their fucking shed to give their little fucking takes on the Scarlet and Violet situation, when similar graphical complaints were happening during Sword and Shield as well. And there were similar bugs during Sun and Moon and X and Y, but nobody wanted to fucking come out and point those out, did they? Did they? No, they didn't. Of course they fucking didn't. Why would they? Why would they? Why would they? They wanted to come out after Scarlet and Violet. Okay. I see. So, there are two other things you need to, use logic to figure out here. Which is the fact that they have established a pattern ever since X and Y. They have. Every 3 years, there's a new generation of Pokemon games. So going off of that pattern, that would suggest that since Scarlet and Violet came out in 2022, 3, 4, 5, oh wow, basic math. The next generation of Pokemon games, if they were to continue on their pattern, would be 2025, which would be next year. Not only that, the sales of their games print money. This is your evidence right here that their games and their releases, despite the fucking constant whining, complaining, print money. You can complain all you want. If their releases still print money, why should they give a shit? Why should they give a shit? And this little fucking other bullshit argument about, well, just because a game makes a lot of money and sells a lot of units doesn't make it a good game. Sure, you want to throw that argument out there? Have at it. How long? I'm just spitballing here. How long has the Call of Duty franchise been doing this for? And every time there's complaints, and every time they still fucking make money. Maybe it's just me. It's probably just me. Yeah, let's just assume it's just me. Are you fucking serious? So they are the ones who established a pattern here. Now, they should stop their patterns. Go back on literally any of the videos that I have talked about Pokemon, though you won't. Let's be honest, you won't. I also have said they should stop their patterns. But am I the one who am I the one who told them to start this pattern? Pretty sure I'm not. Who was it? I can't, again, I can't use the fucking thing that's in my skull here. I can't use logic to figure this shit out for myself or anything. And it's not, common sense. It's clearly not fucking common sense. Who was it that established this fucking pattern in the first place? Oh, that's right. I can't believe I forgot who fucking started this pattern in the first place. At the end of the day, they need to make up their fucking minds. They do. What is this shit? What is this shit? If you're not going to continue a pattern, don't fucking start a pattern in the first place. What a concept. They have had this pattern for over 10 years. Because it started in 2013. They have had this pattern for 11 fucking years. That's a decade. 10 years plus 1. Basic math. If you are not going to continue a pattern that you started, don't fucking start the pattern in the first place. Don't do it. If you are printing money with your releases and with your games, and somehow, and you literally have no fucking incentive or excuse to stop the pattern that you created, why do you have the incentive now? Because everyone decided they wanted to fucking have a little take on the fucking problem? Is that why? Is that really why? You're really going to listen to this whiny fucking fan base now, of all times. Right now. Regardless of fucking Switch 2. I don't give a shit about Switch 2. Now is when you're gonna listen to the whiny fucking fan base. Right now. Okay. Alright, sure. Sure thing. Let's see how well that turns out for you. You want to know how it's going to turn out? I'll tell you how it's going to turn out. This whiny fucking fan base cannot, will not, and will never be satisfied. You want to know what's going to happen? When this fucking game comes out, this one, I'm mad. Give me a break. When this game fucking comes out, you want to know what's going to happen? There are going to be people complaining about it too. You want to know what's going to happen? When Generation 10 comes out in 2026 now, apparently. Although I'm still not going to fucking claim that, because I'll see it when I'll believe it when I fucking see it happen. But let's be like all these fucking whining complainers are going, they should take their time. And say that 2026 is when Generation 10 comes out. You want to know what's going to happen then? They'll fucking complain about it then, too. They'll fucking complain about that game, too. Here's a reality check. Here's the fucking truth you don't want to hear. The Pokemon Company International and GameFreak with your contradictory hypocrisy. You are never going to satisfy your whiny fucking fan base because they're too fucking entitled. But have fun. Have fun. Have fun. You don't want to learn? Have fun. And then when it happens, I'll be the one with the sign being held up saying that simply says 3 words. I told you so. 4 words. I'm mad. Nobody wants to call this shit out. With 4 words. I told you so. I told you so. But have fun. Have fun. Okay? Have fun. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. You're never going to satisfy the entitled fucking whiny ass mental fucking 5-year-old fan base. Which the fucking Digimon fan base is becoming now too. How fucking pathetic. But with no Pokemon Presents for the first time ever in August of the year, in this case, August of 2024. Good job. No, really. Good job. You have officially confirmed you are contradictory hypocrites. So now we all know. I'm glad I know now. That you're just gonna fucking change the shit you do on a fucking whim. Because of a whiny, entitled, mental fucking 5-year-old fan base. Have fun. Have fun with that. Have fun with that. Have fun with this fucking fan base. Who are never gonna be satisfied. Ever. Ever. Fucking ever. Nobody wants to fucking call this shit out. Nobody. I'll do it. This is Megachamp, saying next time I'll be providing you with more unlimited guidance. Bullshit needs to be called out as bullshit. Don't like the fucking truth. Don't like hearing this truth. If this is a truth you don't want to fucking hear. 4 more words for you. Well, 5, I guess. Cry me a fucking river. Bye.